Walker was awarded the first Black woman millionaire in America for her successful line of hair care products. Born Sarah Breedlove, she grew up in Delta, Louisiana. Her parents and elder siblings were slaves on Madison Parish Plantation owned by Robert W. Birney. Born 2 years after the end of Civil War, Sarah was the first child in her family born into freedom. Walker was orphaned at 6, married at 14, and widowed at 20 with a 2-year-old daughter to care for. Early in 1889, Sarah decided to move her and her daughter to St. Louis, where 3 of her brothers lived and worked as barbers. She managed to get work as a laundrywoman, and she was unsatisfied with the amount of money she was making a day.
But as a washerwoman, she was making $1.50 a week, and it wasn't going to make her life improve in any measurable way anytime soon. She said, I prayed to God one day when I was washing clothes, my arms were buried in soap suds, and I said, how am I ever going to improve my life? How am I, a poor washerwoman, ever going to have a better life?
And although America names Madam C.J. Walker the first Black woman to be a millionaire, I want to make sure that I speak about Annie, who is the reason why Madam C.J. Walker was able to walk. Now, this is just my opinion, and I will insert this. Sarah's life really began to change when she discovered the great, wonderful hair grower of Annie Malone. She was an African-American woman from Illinois who relocated her hair business in the same place, St. Louis. After using her products, Sarah began to sell them as a local agent, and she worked for commission for Annie.
That Madam C.J. Walker was one of Annie Malone's employees.
In 1905, Walker decided to move to Denver, Colorado. Her first primary job was a cook in a boarding house. She also sold Annie's products door to door. Her husband, who worked in newspaper advertising, paid to print a letter in Denver's newspaper that warned customers not to buy imitation products. Walker wrote, I wish to say to my customers to not be led into buying of another hair culturalist and think you are buying the grower I represent, Roberts and Pope. I represent the preparation bearing the label of Roberts and Pope, and it can be secured only from me, Miss C.J. Walker. According to them, within months, she began advertising a wonderful hair grower product of Madam C.J. Walker. She later claimed that she had a dream. A big Black man appeared to me and told me what to mix up for my hair. Some of the remedies was grown in Africa, but I sent for it, put it in my scalp, and in a few weeks, my hair was growing faster than it ever fell out. Walker started to travel with her business. She started selling her hair care products and training students on her treatment course. Word did get back to Annie, and according to the Statesman, at that time she decided to put out her own article. She stated, the proof of the value of our work is that we are being imitated, and largely by persons whose own hair we have actually grown. They have very frequently mentioned us when trying to sell their goods. Beware of imitation. And he also decided to send a new agent to Denver due to that announcement. A lot of people do not mention Annie when it comes to Madam C.J. Walker. If you listen to a lot of her biographies or even her family speak, a lot of them say that the reason why she started her hair care line was because her own hair was falling out.
Well, coincidentally, around the same time, her hair had begun to fall out. She had scalp disease, a very severe scalp disease that was very common among African American women and white women at the time.
People argue the reason why Madam C.J. Walker's name was so global because she traveled to make sure people were aware of her business. She fought for her voice to be heard, and she gave back to her community. In 1904, the St. Louis World Fair brought most of the major African American thinkers to the city. Walker decided to attend their talks. This was her first time being exposed to prominent Black American Tuskegee Institute founder Booker T. Washington, and W.E.B. Du Bois, who both tried to take approaches to improve the lot of Black Americans. However, throughout the evolution of her business, there was a lot of controversy over her hair care products for African American women. Some African American leaders felt that her hair straighteners were a mimicry of white women's hair. Walker denied and took offense to those claims because she said her goal was to help hair growth. Walker decided to begin a 18-month tour in all of the southern states so that she can make sure that she reached her potential customers. She lectured, she trained, and she sought out agents to sell her products so that they can make a better living for themselves. She ended up creating a large consumer base. After she completed that, in 1910, she wrote the famous Booker T. Washington asking for him to invest in her newly formed company. He politely answered with no. That summer, Madam C.J. Walker decided to expand her network by attending as many Black conventions and conferences as she could, including the National Association of Colored Women, in which she became very active. In 1912, Walker again wrote Booker T. Washington asking for the right to speak at his upcoming conference. He said no. That same year, Washington held a meeting in Chicago, and it seemed like a natural place for the nation's most prominent Black women entrepreneurs to speak. Washington gave the floor to some of her hair competitors. But when a newspaper editor stood up to introduce Madam Walker, Washington dismissed him and would not let her speak. On the final day of the convention, she stood up and she said, "Surely you are not going to shut the door in my face. I feel that I am in a business that is a credit to the womanhood of our race. I am a woman who started in business 7 years ago with only $1.50. This year, I had taken in $18,000. This makes a grand total of $63,049 made in my hair business in Indianapolis. I went into a business that is despised, that is criticized and talked about. I have been trying to get before you business people to tell you what I am doing. I am a woman that came from the cotton fields of the South. I was promoted from there to the wash tub. Then I was promoted to the cook in the kitchen, and from there I promoted myself into a business of manufacturing hair goods and preparation. I am not ashamed of my past. I am not ashamed of my humble beginnings. Don't think that because you have to go down in the wash tub that you are anything less than a lady. Everybody told me I was making a mistake going into business. I have built my own factory. I employ in that factory 7 people, including a bookkeeper, a stenographer, a cook, and a house girl. I own my own automobile. Now my object in life is not simply to make money for myself or to spend it on myself in dressing or running around in an automobile. I love to use a part of what I make trying to help others. Newspaper called her comments one of the biggest hits of the conventions, and they praised her for her striking personality. Washington made it clear that he did not support her movement because he did not like the hair straighteners and the skin bleaching creams. He felt that it would lead to an internalization of white concepts of beauty. He said specifically, and beauty culture generally, for trying to straighten Black women's hair and adopting white aesthetics of beauty was simply wrong. A lot of Black women were using straightening products by that time. Walker's slogan in ads, according to biography.com, was "kink out and straightening hair." It caused for a lot of other people to take action. Before she even met Booker T. Washington, it was this young lady who was a former slave and a member of Tuskegee's first graduating class of 1885. She founded her own school in Alabama, and she condemned hair wrapping. Hair wrapping was a method at that time that was taught to help black women de-link their hair. Bowen and other black women formed an anti-hair wrapping club in order to debunk Walker's movement. In a book called On Her Own Ground, The Life and Times of Madam C.J. Walker, it was said that they believed it was foolish to try to make your hair straight when God saw fit to make it kinky. Another woman named Nanny Helen also agreed with her approach. She said, what every woman who bleaches and straightens out needs is not appearance change, but her mind change. Also, some churches that were opposed to this movement, a very vocal black group of men, rejected Madam C.J. Walker because they asserted that if God meant for black women to have straightened hair, he would have endowed them with it. Although all the drama and controversy, Walker was still able to sell her products everywhere in the United States. As well as in July of 1913, Madam was thrilled when Booker T. Washington agreed to be her house guest during his visit to Indianapolis. Later that year, at the 14th annual convention of the National Business League held in Philadelphia, Madam Walker was on the schedule explaining to the audience how she succeeded in the business world. And this is what she said: I am not merely satisfied in making money for myself. I am endeavoring to provide employment for hundreds of women of my race. I had little to no opportunity when I started out in life. I had to make my own living and my own opportunities, but I made it. This is why I want to say to every black woman present, do not sit down and wait for the opportunities to come, but you have to get up and make them. If the truth were known, there are many women who are responsible for the success of you men. Unfortunately, in 1915, passed away. Freeman Ransom represented Madam Walker and her company at the funeral in Alabama. Walker never stopped being a voice to her community. In 1917, she joined alongside the NAACP with the silent protest parade against lynching in New York City, as well as hosting her first national convention at Philadelphia's Union Baptist Church. More than 200 women from all over the United States gathered to learn about sales and marketing. She's quoted telling people, what I have done, you can do. I am here to interest you and inspire you. In 1919, Walker unfortunately passed away. Her passing was news all over the world. That's when America credited her as the first black woman to become a self-made millionaire. After her passing, she continued to grow in sales. However, in 1921, sales dropped during a brief depression, and they continued to decline during the 1920s. That did not stop her estate from making sure her legacy was known. In 1998, the USPS services included her in the Black Heritage series. In 2001, the granddaughter of May Walker Perry published On Her Own Ground, The Life and Times of Madam C.J. Walker. And as of today, you can still go out and buy Madam C.J. Walker's products.